Welcome back to the Third Wheel Podcast at night. Huh?
You.
See? I'm so sorry. Let me do that again. Welcome back to the Third Wheel Podcast
At night.
I'm Caleb.
And I'm Darcy.
We are coming at you live from the studio the day after Valentine's Day. Happy Valentine's Day, Darcy.
Thank you.
Well, how was your Valentine's Day? Did you do anything fun?
I worked, and then I went to go do youth group with the kids I work with at the church.
Hey.
And then came home at 9 o'clock at night, where I got to walk into a fridge full of White Claws and some chocolate-dipped strawberries that Paul handmade because I talked about them looking good.
That's the best thing I've ever heard. That's so sweet
Here,
and
this is a
intentional.
picture of them.
Oh, those look great.
Right.
This
I
guy-
already ate like half of them right there because I just I saw them and I just started munching.
You were
on
like,
them.
I should probably take a picture.
Yeah, no, Paul was the one. He was like, "Did you even take a picture of them? They're so pretty." I did say he made like the whole like shebang to it, and I was like, "Okay, I guess I should."
It's like,
probably
did you
take a
even
picture.
did you even do the woman thing and take a picture of your food?
No, I just shoved it in my mouth.
Admittedly, I also do the woman thing and take a picture of my food. So, hey, whatever.
But yeah, that was really sweet. It was really unexpected. I didn't expect him to do that.
Yeah, I was also serving with you, so I'm serving in students now. I normally just hand out the food to the kids, but this time, since my fiance was out, she normally handles the computer stuff. So I had started doing that. They showed me how to switch slides during worship, so that was kind of cool. But the day before, we went to Darcy's favorite restaurant, and now she's angry with me.
So rude.
I know. We were supposed to all to go together, but they had a last-minute cancellation, so...
For a family emergency.
That lasted like an hour, and then it was over.
Well, the family emergency lasted like 10 hours.
Yeah.
And it was I didn't even want to go. I thought it was gonna be fine, and then Paul was like, "Hey, by the way, I'm going. If you want to go or not."
Yeah,
And I was
then
like, "Man."
at that point, your hands are tied. Like, what are you supposed to do?
Like,
So
now I gotta go.
I know that sucks, but I'm gonna be honest with you. So we went to Texas Day Brazil. I don't know if any locals listen to this know what we're talking about, but it's a super high end restaurant. I mean, you could probably describe it better, Darcy. You used to work there.
I mean, it's just a Brazilian steakhouse, all you can eat steak and mashed potatoes and really fancy salad bar with different types of cheeses and their lobster bisque soup. Oh my God, I love their lobster bisque soup so much.
Yeah, so I made a point to get the soup, as you told me last time, because you said you'd kill for it. It is really good, but I would say for me, I can only eat like a bowl of it because it's so rich that your throat starts to hurt. You know what I mean?
I put we actually used to put, what did we used to put in it? Some of the mozzarella balls.
Okay, cool.
And dip like our mozzarella balls in the lobster bisque. I don't know. It was really good.
I knew that was mozzarella balls. They were like, "You want some bread?" And I was like, "That is not bread. That's straight up cheese." That you fried.
No, the bread, they do put down cheesy bread.
Yeah,
It's not just a ball of, no, they have
it's-
specific like mozzarella balls up at the
Okay,
salad.
it's literally that thing though is a ball of cheese. You know
It's
what I mean?
cheesy bread.
I get it, but it's literally cheese with a little bit of breading over
Yeah.
it. I'm not complaining; it was good. I'm just saying that's what it was. They tried to pass it off as bread, and that's a lie. So, first Valentine's Day with somebody. So that was pretty cool. So we exchanged gifts and everything, and it was, pretty pricey, but it was pretty worth it. I've been working a lot of overtime, so let me see. I will say, I'm gonna be honest with you. It's still not my favorite restaurant, just because, and it's not to do with the flavor of the food. It's just because I'm not a steak person, and almost everything they bring you is steak related.
I'm
And
not a steak person either, but they have a bunch of options.
I know, and I had their chicken. I had their garlic chicken, their Parmesan chicken, and guys, they bring it over on a whole steak, and they bring the steak
Stop!
by.
I'm so hungry.
And if you want
I wasn't
it,
hungry, and now I am.
and if you want it, they cut it off and put it on there, right? And so I mean, their top sirloin was good, their New York strip was good, but and it was good. I'm not a steak person, and so then I was like, they brought the chickens by. I got the chicken, and then I got I said no to the lamb because I already just know I don't like lamb. Do you like lamb?
Their lamb there is actually pretty good.
Okay, I'm not.
Even places that you don't like lamb, that place has some pretty good lamb.
And I believe you, but I'm like, yeah, it's just I don't like the texture and the flavor. It
You
just
should have at
doesn't
least
do much.
tried it.
I'm sure I had it last time. It didn't stick out to me.
Okay.
Then their sausages were good. Like I couldn't say no to that.
You look like a sausage lover.
Very much so. As one of the comments that YouTube automatically blocked was so nice to point out. He was very nice to tell me that I look like I love sausage, and he used other words and he used colors to describe it. But
Ginormous sausages.
yeah, of a certain variety color. but he said in all love, he was giving me a compliment, and I was like, thank you. So I took that as I'm a good looking guy. So, I still left that comment blocked, but I didn't block it. Someone, YouTube did that for me. So, as it does to a lot of comments, actually, I was surprised with how many YouTube be looking out for me. You know what I mean? So, pretty cool.
So, okay, I have a question for you.
Okay, cool. What you got?
Do you think that when you're in a relationship with someone, that automatically makes them you guys like each other's Valentine? Or do you think that you should still go out of your way to ask them?
Yeah, you should ask. Women like to be courted. They like to be pursued. And I know as time goes on, that tends to not die, I won't say die out, but like you've been together for a while and it starts to like become less like emotional. The emotion starts to die down a bit. The tensions aren't as high, that kind of stuff. But women always like to be pursued. So you always want to make sure that, especially Valentine's Day, like, you don't have to get the most expensive gift, but look like you put some effort into it. Like you got something thoughtful. If you can write something down, do it. I'm not a writer, but you got to make a point to write stuff down for your significant other. Women love that stuff. Women love to be pursued, so you never want to stop pursuing them. If you hear a dog in the background, sorry. It kind of kills the mojo sometimes. But did I answer your question or did I dodge it?
Yeah. I feel the same way. I feel like you should still ask. And even if the other person thinks it's dumb, like I don't know, sometimes girls say that they think something's dumb, but then when you don't do it, their feelings still get hurt.
Right.
So, and it's really funny too, because I guess I'm not the same person I was a year ago. I don't remember this, but apparently I told Paul last year, I think Valentine's Day is the stupidest thing ever, and not to get me anything, not to even waste his time, because it's just dumb.
Yeah.
And this year I was like, are you gonna ask me to be your Valentine? And he was like, what? And I was like, I just want something. I just want to make it known I want something, And so we were like laying in bed, and he was like, okay, will you be my Valentine? And I was like, no, you can't ask like that. I was like, you need to ask in a nice way.
Yeah, see, for my fiance, I was working toward it, and it was the same thing with you, where it's like she tells me, we ask me, and I should have already known this. I got to practice what I preach. I got to ask her again, even though we already talked about it and stuff, but you got to have an official, will you be my Valentine? You have to. You have to.
Yeah.
Right. So my bad for forgetting, because, again, I got to practice what I preach. But she said, you haven't asked me yet, right? And so I was like, okay, cool. So I was like, oh, well, I'm not just going to say it. I was trying to build up to, I love you. When we've had some great time, we're having great times together. We're going to get married here in the next couple months. And then she's like, you're not saying it. And I was like, I will if you let me build. I'm trying not to rush into it. Was I missing something?
No, I don't know. And it was funny too, because when I got home, like whatever he got me, like wasn't like obvious that he got me. So when I walked in the door, I immediately wanted to be like, you didn't get me anything. But then I was like, no, I'll be patient, because maybe it's in the room. Maybe it's somewhere I'm like not seeing.
Maybe it's going to pop out of a cake.
Yeah. But he had it in the garage fridge.
Oh, that's cute.
And so whenever I just so happened to have something I needed to put in our fridge, which is really funny. And so he was like, oh, I'll come help you. And I was like, why do I need help? And immediately I was like, oh, he has it in the garage. I was like, why would he have it in the garage? That's stupid. And we opened the garage door and there's nothing in the garage. I'm like, why is he acting weird? And then when I opened the fridge was when I was like, oh, and he had the little chocolate covered roses and a card and the claws right next to it, because that's my favorite cheap alcoholic beverage.
Yeah.
If I'm going out, I don't want a White Claw. I want liquor. But I'm not responsible enough to have a bottle of liquor at home.
Yeah.
Because I'll just finish it.
I love that.
At least I'm aware. I'm self-aware.
Yeah.
Good job, me.
I didn't high five her. Thank you, producer. All right, I got a question for you, Darcy, non-Valentine related. And I think this is what I want the topic to be for today. I'm going to ask it in a way where it leaves it open for interpretation, but don't take it the wrong way. Is age just a number? But no, in all seriousness, does age equal maturity? I know we touched on it in past episodes, but I'm gonna go in for it today. I've been wanting to talk about this story for quite a while, actually. This particular experience I had with someone over the past couple months, and I'm kind of over the span of a few months, and I finally feel like I'm ready to talk about it and kind of get into it. It's been, I feel like it's been a long time coming, and I've wanted to talk about it, but I don't know. I just felt like there's a chance this person could be listening. I didn't want to be rude. I don't want to embarrass anybody. That's never really my intention, unless we're talking about a celebrity who can take that kind of thing. But in this instance, I am talking about a very personal experience. But I'm going to start by laying the foundation. Does age equal maturity? If you're older, does that automatically mean you already got stuff figured out, you're mature for your age, that type of stuff? A lot of people say that. A lot of people treat it that way. You know what I mean? But what do you think?
It should. I think age should equal maturity, and as you age, you should be figuring things out. Is that the way it works? No.
Yeah.
I mean, realistically, it should work that way. As you age, you mature, you learn things, you grow, you don't make the same mistakes. Or if you do make the same mistakes, you're more aware to not make it again and again.
Right.
And you should be able to accumulate some life experiences and grow out of, that party stage or that stage where, you were just, I don't know, hooking up with people, or the stage of smoking weed, or but you should be growing out of those things. And like, props to you if you never got into them, but I'm just saying, I am always very surprised when I see a 52-year-old man that still smokes weed and still hooks up with girls from the bar. And I'm like, what are you doing? Like, you are not 20, sir.
I know. Actually, there's some things now being engaged, or even being with a girlfriend, I just can't do anymore for like kind of what you're talking about. Like, I can't go into a bar and just sit down by myself anymore. I have to go with people. Because back in the day, when I wanted to talk to somebody, that's what I would do, is just go in and sit down and start ordering drinks, and then just looking pretty, I guess. I'd say just sit there and just kind of look like I'm keeping to myself. And I'm telling you, they just come up and sit next to you and just start talking. It's really not that hard. It's almost like you're putting up your flag and being like, open for business. You know what I mean? I can't do that anymore because, I'm with somebody and it's going to be permanent here pretty soon. So it's like, so you would say even just doing that's a sign of immaturity. Mm-hmm. Okay. Interesting.
Okay, my definition of immaturity is just not learning from life experiences.
That's fair.
And so when you're, like I said, 52 and you have a, 23-year-old being like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, that's immaturity.
I agree.
You should have, there's no like definitive age because everybody goes through different things. And, like for me, it took me a little, I still think I was ahead of the game, but as far as the American dream of move out at 18, complete school, buy a house by this age, have kids, but as far as that goes, I am like behind, but it's just not realistic in general anymore at all anyways. But when I, got out of rehab, I was almost 20.
Yeah.
And I had zero to put into my life. So to be able to just turn around and move out and have a good job and have a career going and be ready for this or do that, like, just wasn't realistic for me.
Right.
Because of my life circumstance. And there's some people that, struggle a lot later than I did. I happened to be a teen when I went through my adult party phase. So, there are some people coming up their rehab or their lifestyle at 28 that have nothing to go off of. So that's understandable. If you're not where you're at or where you expected to be at or where society says you should be at, but there's still like a mental maturity that can come with a lot of those life experiences.
I agree.
So
what do you think's the difference between someone who is immature or just makes the same mistake again? Or is there a difference? Does that make sense?
I think somebody that's making the same mistake again will admit that they're struggling.
Yeah.
And they're having a hard time with it. Whereas in someone that's immature will find a way to blame others for the situation they're at in life.
Yeah.
And won't take accountability.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I can agree with that. So we have different definitions, I guess, of like what is considered mature and immature. I don't smoke weed, right? But you would say that's a sign of immaturity. I think it's to me, it's in the same vein as just regular smoking or drinking. To me, it's the same. To me, it's the same thing. Okay, I don't smoke, and I don't smoke weed either. But
if somebody could realistically sit there and smoke weed on special occasions, I wouldn't see a problem with it.
Right.
But I've never met somebody that can be controlled with marijuana substance.
Well, you can't be controlled with smoking cigarettes either. You can't do that once every now and then. Once you're addicted, you have to have one, right?
I've met people that do smoke occasionally.
Oh,
Maddie
I'm
smokes
sure.
occasionally.
I get that, but I'm saying,
sorry.
but like, no, you're good. No, and people can smoke occasionally,
right.
But people that now, but a lot of people just smoke cigarettes. Would you say they're mature? And that, it's hard to quit, right? I wouldn't say they're mature.
I wouldn't say like they're immature, but smoking cigarettes also doesn't like alter your brain function. Like,
Yeah,
I don't know.
fair.
Have you ever talked to like a pothead? Like they're pretty dumb most of the time.
I try not to hang with pot. No, so I mean, I'm sure I have, but I'm not like. I don't really hang with those people that much because they're so boring.
They're boring. If you try to talk to a pothead, you're gonna
Yeah.
feel like your brain cells are dying as you're having a conversation with them.
I know what you mean, but it's like once I'm bored with somebody like that in a conversation, I tend to find a way out of it just because I got to be like having a good back and forth. If it's like, yeah, I don't know I don't talk to that many potheads because like I said, once I'm bored, I'm done. But if it's like, yeah, dude, yeah, and it's just like a dead end. Like I'm not even going to bother.
Especially because most of the people that I meet that smoke pot, I'm not going to say it's like end all be all. You smoke weed, you're immature. Like I said, I've known people or I haven't known people that can just pick it up occasionally and be like, oh, it's 420, so I'll smoke weed.
Right.
Oh, it's Christmas, so I'll smoke weed. Like anyone that I know that smokes weed, like smokes weed.
Yeah.
All of their finances go towards it. So you're being financially irresponsible.
Yeah.
Most of the time they don't have a good job because if you have a good job, they're drug testing or they're screening or there's some type of thing to it. So you're going to have a lower grade job.
Yeah.
And if you're smoking weed, like most of the time I see that like they're just kind of like they have a messy lifestyle.
I get
so
that.
to me that points to immaturity. If you're, like I said, in your 50s and doing that. Now, people that are in their early 20s, I'm like, whatever, you're figuring things out. If you're 22 and you smoke weed, I don't automatically deem you as immature. I just see that you're going through kind of like that phase in life. But when you're doing that much later in life, I'm like, dude, like you didn't grow out of this. You didn't mature. You didn't get wiser with age and learn that, this is something you need to leave behind to succeed in different areas.
Yeah.
So like, is smoking weed in general immature? Not necessarily, but I'm talking about that's something that as you get older, you stop doing.
I guess if you stay in the mindset of like it affects your lifestyle, the way you're now, a lot of people say weed will make you lazy, but Joe Rogan would argue this, and I kind of agree. It's like if you're a lazy person, weed's gonna just keep you doing that. It's not gonna help you. You're not gonna be more productive with it. If you're lazy, if you're already a lazy person, weed makes that worse, right? So, where was I going with that? Let me tell you, because I'm trying to get my memory train back. Excuse me. Let me see. Yeah. If you, like you're describing, you're letting it affect, like, okay, you're going to smoke weed and eat too much, or your house is going to be a mess, or you're late for work, you're smoking weed and you're still working at McDonald's, you're not a manager, you're just working to pay for your weed habits. Like, yeah, I get that. You shouldn't be in your 50s still kind of living like you're 20.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I think that's really what you're getting at. So not so much smoking weed, period. It's more so like, working to buy more weed and being stuck in that, like you're stuck there.
Yeah.
So I get that. In my experience, I've only come across toxic people. Well, toxic's the wrong word. I've only come across people who take the age thing to an extreme. So I had a coworker who I would say she was bipolar, but she would yell at me and she would say like, well, you're 22 and you're acting like you're 60, just because like, I don't know. She had a weird way of thinking, a weird warped way of thinking where anytime I said something, she just took offense to it. And then she would bring up my age, like, you're so young and you think you know everything. I'm like, what are you talking about? You know what I mean? But then there's lesser extremes too, where I am on a dating app. And this was a while ago, obviously, but I'm on, take Zoosk, for example. Have you heard of Zoosk?
No.
It's for a while, it wasn't bad, actually. I was getting some decent conversations from it. But there was one that was going really well, and I thought, like, this might actually be, like, pretty decent. And then she was like, oh, shoot, I didn't realize you're only 20. I think I was 26. And she was like, sorry, I just need someone older right now. And I was like, I don't know what you're going to get from a guy in his 40s who probably doesn't have it all figured out. You know what I mean? Like, what are you going to get from a guy who's just older? You know what I mean? That I probably wouldn't be able to provide, because I was still working a good job. I was still doing pretty much everything right, still saving, still... I hadn't even started the podcast yet, I don't think. But I was like, you know, I didn't see that as a proper disqualifier.
Well, she probably, because how old was she?
She was my age, about 26.
Oh, okay. I was about to say she probably just sees you as a child, but if she's this, never mind.
Yeah, but
that's funny.
So what am I missing then? Like, I mean, I just don't get what her deal was. What am I missing? What could her mindset have been? What was she going for?
A majority of men in their 20s are normally just immature.
Right.
Like, and that was because when I was 19, I went on a lot of dates with people in their 30s.
Yeah.
And I really wanted to take things slow and just kind of like date, you know?
Sure.
And then men in their 30s, it was like when I went on a date with them, it was like they were ready to like pursue serious stuff and not mess around, which was great. But I was like, okay, I'm 19. I'm not ready for that.
Right.
You know, like I'm not ready to like have kids in the next few years. I'm not ready to, you know, like be a wife. I'm ready to like party and go have fun. And like if I have someone to enjoy that life experience with, cool. But also if I don't, like also cool, because I'll get more free drinks. You know, like that was kind of my mindset. And I realized like, okay, I'm not ready for this age group. And so men in their 20s, it was really easy to have small flings with them or go out a time or two or have, you know, like kind of whatever I was wanting in that time. And, you know, of course, at the time I wasn't with a Christian mindset towards anything. Sure. So, you know, it was hookup culture and, you know, all of that. But, you know, so I can definitely see a woman that's 26 being like, yeah, no, I don't want to date someone in their 20s. I want someone in their 30s. I want someone that's ready to like move forward in life, that is already stable in their career. Because most people aren't, you know, and like, should she have taken the time to ask if you were like, maybe, you know, because.
Yeah, I was going to say, I really do feel like she jumped the gun on that. And don't get me wrong, it worked out, guys. Like I said, I'm engaged now. Soon to be married, like actually sooner than I would have thought. You know what I mean? But I'm just talking like in, you know, from past experiences. I think it's very relevant to this discussion because there were so many roadblocks I've hit in the dating world, I'd say, where someone was just like, ooh, older. I want older. Yeah. You know what I mean? Some people really think that just age translates to emotional maturity. And I just disagree. I really do. And I got some good examples here. Like I got some really solid examples, I think, that we'll hopefully get into.
I have a, okay. This might be controversial. So.
Oh, I was laying down foundation for this discussion, but if you want to go straight into disagreeing, let's do it. Sorry, guys.
So as looking as a whole, not at individuals. Okay. So I'm not saying this is the way it always is. Unless your significant other passed, the most mature age you're going to find for dating is going to be men in their early 30s as a whole. People in their 20s want party. They're not ready to settle down. They're not set in their career. Men in their early 30s are, you know, getting set in their career. They may or may not have already bought a house by then too. Right. You know, like they have everything going. They're ready to settle down and get going and be serious. Men that are, I would say, past 35, if they're looking to date, if they've always been single, there's something wrong with them.
Yeah.
If they were divorced, you know, it's not always the guy's fault, but you know,
right.
I've definitely met some crazy women.
I mean, yeah.
You know,
absolutely.
But you know, if you're divorced and have kids and all of that, it's like, okay, what's your goal here? Like, you want to settle down again, or do you want to mess around, or
do you remember that date I told you about online? Where we were playing in the back seat with like her plastic toys. You remember that? That was funny. Shout out to that episode. Go watch that. That was very early. But I was going to say she... where's I going with that?
I don't know. But I remember where I was going with mine.
I'm going to have to cut that out.
So 35 and beyond, unless it was like, you know, divorce that wasn't your fault,
Yeah.
or like maybe your significant other died,
I know where I was going with that.
then like most of the time I find that they're super immature too.
Yeah.
And so I would say like your sweet spot for dating, if you're looking to settle down and be serious, is 30 to 35 with men.
Right. I remember. So that girl that I was describing, she said like, so what's wrong with you? And I was like 24. And I was like, nothing, you know, because like I was dating for keeps, you know, to be serious. And then she was asking why aren't you already married, I guess, is what she was trying to say. But immediately she came out with a slap of like, what's wrong with you? And I was like, nothing.
That's such a funny question. Well, I get that question,
I
but
do.
to ask somebody at 24, that
I know.
question's
Like that's what I'm
pretty
saying.
funny.
And like you said, like if I was 36, you know, I'd
Right.
be like, hey, what's wrong with you? No, never married, no kids. That's a
Like-
good question. Yeah. Yep. And we're going to get there.
Oh boy.
Yep.
Oh god.
So
okay.
that's the story I'm building to.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. I just really led you into that one, didn't I?
Well, that's where do you think I got the number 36 from?
That's funny. I didn't even intentionally lead into that.
Yeah. So we'll get there. So, but anyway, I ran into the same issue with another person online who now at this point she was 18 and we met online. And she was she started, the message started, it was a very interesting way to start a conversation. I don't know why she asked me because I thought the ages were displayed, but she said, how old are you? I'm looking for someone older. And she didn't do it in like a playful, like, you know, daddy way. But
Ew,
I know.
God, don't say that.
I got news for you, Darcy. That's how I talk. We've been friends for coming up on 4 years now.
God, that was gross.
But like I said, it wasn't in a playful, like she was flirting with me. She was asking. She was like, how old are you? At this point, I'm looking for someone older. And I was like, well, and I think at this point I was 27. So I was like, 27, you know. And she's like, okay. And then we talked for a little bit, but it just wasn't going anywhere. But I had already learned at that point, 18-year-olds are not the way to go. Like I'm not, and she seemed more mature for her age than most 18-year-olds. But I was like, I learned my lesson at this point. I am not about like you're talking about learning from mistakes. Anyone who has not learned from their mistake, she would have been the fourth time around had I actually tried to keep talking to her. Like you're an idiot. I'm sorry. Like especially with something big like that, an actual age difference. Like I'd argue age equaling maturity is a lot more relevant when you're 18 years old, you know, but
Yeah,
or even below that.
I
Don't even get me
found-
started.
When I was 19, the oldest I was willing to go after the experience with a couple different people in their early 30s
Yeah.
was probably about 27.
Mm-hmm.
And
And this is your looking for a party guy phase. Not even like something
I
serious.
I wasn't against something serious, but I wanted somebody to have fun with me.
Yeah.
You know, like I didn't want somebody that like
Was gonna
like,
go to bed at 8:30.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, like I was still in my party phase. I didn't necessarily need it to be this like open relationship or this
No.
hookup only or this friends with benefit. You know, like I
Yeah.
was fine with serious, but I wanted somebody to have fun with me. And I didn't see that happening with a lot of these guys in their early 30s because they went through the stage of going out and having fun, and now they're ready to just, you know, have a simple life.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know if I'll ever get to that point
Do you
because like
guys-
going out is fun, but I don't know. I'm also only 24, so
Yeah, I was gonna say like I when I go out and party at 28, which is what I'm at now, I feel it. Like
Okay, that's
and
fair.
And I feel it in a way I've never felt it before. Like when I was 19, I
yeah,
You just feel the
I
hangover.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
I didn't even get hangovers at 19.
Right,
now I
right.
do.
Yeah, but
I'm like,
I-
oh god,
yeah.
this sucks.
Well, the first couple times were like I blacked out because I didn't know how to manage it, which I can do now, right? But now like if I go too much, now it's like it's not just like a hangover now. Now it's like your whole body is in pain the
Yeah.
whole day, and your stomach is sick, and it's bad. It affects my whole day.
yeah.
And anyway, but that's not something that happens when you're that age, 21, 22. Like it's just like you're fine. You can still go to work. I used to do that.
So, do you
But-
think that? Okay, do you think that age gaps are different between men and women on what they find acceptable? Because, like, for me, I'm 24 now,
Yeah.
and like, if I wasn't with Paul, it would deeply disturb me to think of going out with an 18-year-old.
Oh. But I guess I'm missing your question. I got that last part. I was like, yeah, I feel sick too. But, but
So, like,
what's your question again?
do you think it's different when girls go down in age versus when guys go down in age? So, like,
Yeah. but not for any. I don't think it's for any significant reason. Unless our audience disagrees, feel free. We're getting a bigger audience now. We hit 200 subscribers today. So if some of y'all listen to this and have something to chime in, please do. Honestly, I read them and I respond, even if they're not appropriate, even if they're hateful. I respond. And but I would say it's more if it falls into the double standard territory where it's not socially acceptable for an older woman to date a younger guy. And for guys, like everyone high fives each other when an older guy gets a younger woman, and they'll be like, "How much money? Like, really? How much you paying her?" You know, and it's more seen as like a trophy thing. People leave their older wives or their same age wives to be with someone half their age. You know what I mean? But I wouldn't say anything significant as far as men and women, unless you disagree. I mean, that's why you're a woman co-host on this show. Do you think it's different between man and woman if one goes down in age? Dates down.
I don't know if it's just because of a society thing, but like I do feel differently about it.
What's different for you then, if you were to do it, but versus, and I'll tell you if it's the same or different for a guy.
I feel like overall, generally, girls mature quicker than guys do.
Mm-hmm.
So I find when a woman goes down in age, she's signing up for someone like super immature. Whereas when a guy goes down in age, a lot of times they can find a similar maturity with a younger woman.
I think it's...
You think it's the same across the board?
I do. Now, of course, it always varies for the individual. And I would agree with you that like when a girl, if an older woman's going to date a younger guy, absolutely, like there's a chance the guy's going to do something else or be immature. But it's no different. It's not going to be different either way. So let me tell you, when a woman dates a younger guy... If she's going to date, if she's like 35 and falls in love with an 18-year-old, he might say he's committed. But if he's a good-looking guy and maybe he didn't have confidence before, or he's going to hit 25 and be like, man, I really should have screwed around before I got married. That's what I'm finding. I've been with, and I don't mean been with, I've just had good conversations with older women who married someone half their age, and they left because they realized, man, I could have been pulling like some really young people my age or some really pretty women, or I never had a hoe phase, and they want to sleep around. They never kind of like had that experience, so they'll leave because they realize they married too early. And then if you flip it the other way, an older guy dating a younger woman, which is what I kind of ended up running into, and we agree, like, you should never date someone like 18, 19, 20. It's really not a good time to dating someone. But what ends up happening is the same thing. Maybe they don't it's not the same where a woman's like, oh, I could have been sleeping around. But it's really just more so like, I wouldn't say get bored, but they just don't know who they are yet. So if they're like prone to lying to their parents, they're going to start lying to you. But they have like an identity problem, and they don't really know what they're looking for. You know what I mean? And like once they find out who they are, by then they start having thoughts of like, well, we're just growing apart, or you're not the same person I married. You know what I mean? But their perspective shifts to where they're thinking, well, I was young and dumb and I married someone older when I should have been like figuring out myself first, and then they'll have a midlife crisis and take off. That's what I think happens. And it's for different reasons, but I'd say the problem is the same. Okay. Is when once a younger person figures out who they are, they realize the person they married at 18, 19, 20 isn't who they want to be with forever. Yeah. Not every time. Like I said, individual's different. But like an 18-year-old can make a promise they can't keep because they just don't understand the weight of that promise. Yeah. If I was 18 and I got hit on by quite a few people that were in their 40s at that age, 18 to 22. I mean, and it still happens, but like, it was just like, I've always been emotionally mature for my age. So I've always been able to connect with those people better, and then I'd get a pass from them or a text saying, "Hey, do you want to come over?" And I just knew like it just wasn't a good idea, And I knew, and a lot of them had that issue already where they married someone younger and they were trying to do the same thing with me, and it's like, did you not learn your lesson the first time? But yeah, I was having an identity crisis, and I knew I was, so I was like, I'm not even going to bother because I don't even know who I am yet. But agree or disagree?
Yeah, I think everything you said sounds good. Makes
pretty
sense.
good. Yeah, I'd say same. It's the same for both genders. It's once the person who's younger figures out who they actually are. Sometimes someone who's 18 has a lot of things happen to them when they're younger with their parents or something really bad, and it forces them to mature pretty quickly. But I mean, good luck finding one of those that's actually gonna stick with you kind of to the end, because they don't know who they are yet, especially if they've had some developmental setbacks. But
So what do you think, like, kind of the biggest age gap in your brain is appropriate for?
what's the maximum age difference before it gets weird?
Yeah.
Okay.
And like, I'm not talking about like let's set the base age as, let's say this person, girl or guy, let's say they're like 23. You know,
How high up should they date?
Yeah. Because, like, obviously, the older you get, the bigger the distance, the less a deal. You know, like a 40-year-old with a 55-year-old is less of an age gap than a, you know, 15-year-old with a 30-year-old. Well, that's a minor, so, like, obviously, but you get what I'm saying.
We've talked about double standards before. I still think it plays into a double standard. When you have an older woman that's dating someone half her age, everyone's like, okay, how much money does she have? Nobody's seriously doing that. With a serious age difference like that from woman to man, where the boy's younger, like everyone's like, how much money does she have? There's no way they're doing that for love. It's a sugar mama situation. And then when it's flipped, when a guy in his 40s is dating someone who's 28 or something,
They're like, oh, he groomed her.
yeah. Oh, I said yeah.
Is that not where you're going?
No, but I already said yes, so I have to stick to my original point.
Next time I'm gonna say something just like really out of pocket and see if you
like,
agree
yep,
with it.
I
Yeah.
agree. Wait, like that. No.
So you think it's acceptable for a 15-year-old to date a 30-year-old?
Nice try. You ain't throwing me under the bus like that. Tell you what, enough people listen to this and try to spin it. I don't need that. But anyway, what's the baseline? Someone's a mature person. What age are we going to say someone's got their identities, should have their identity figured out?
Like,
what age?
let's say they're like 23. Let's say they've got like enough figured out to be able to make that kind of commitment. What do you think a 23-year-old is the oldest can go without it being like, ooh?
For a...
And let's say they're ideally put together, not like an immature 23-year-old.
If a guy is going to date a woman younger, no more than 15 years. 10's pushing it. But I would say, like, because it's different. Like, women, for some reason, they'll marry a guy 20 years older and be happy, and they actually love that person.
So you think as a 23-year-old, that cutoff should probably be about 33?
Yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah. For a woman dating a man who's younger, a young man, 7 years. I'm gonna go 7 years.
So you do find a difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a gender thing. I will 100% admit to it. Yeah. So, any other questions before we talk about personal experiences again? I'm ready to get on to the stories. Any other questions? I'm happy to address.
I don't think so. I'll say from my statement. So I agree with kind of that 10-year range.
Yeah.
And more so, and not even necessarily because it becomes weird after that, but more so from a place of like, y'all are from completely different generations. You're not going to have enough in common.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. Oh, my producer's saying we got a word from our sponsor. Please stand by for a word. Hi, my name's Caleb. You're watching the Third Wheel Podcast at night. Enjoy. Man, that was deep. I love that. Thank you, sponsor. All right, Darcy, where were we at?
I'm lost. Okay. Well, I'm just going to ignore
I'm
that.
cutting out your lost part because it made perfect sense to me. So, anyway.
Whatever.
Wish you let me finish talking before you interrupted. So now it's going to be harder to edit. But, all right. So, I'm ready to get to story time now. And I think we were at the end of the questions that you had, and I thought they were pretty good questions. However, yeah, I'm just ready to get to story time. Yeah, unless you had any more questions, that's what I was doing. I was asking if you had anything else, and you're like, eh.
No.
All right. I've been holding this story in for quite a while. Because like I said, I don't ever really, unless they're a celebrity, I really try not to embarrass anybody. And this person that I was kind of talking to for a little bit never really listened to the show anyway, even when I was asking him to. I'd say guys want to be pursued too a little bit, at least shown an interest, like at least pretend to be interested in the stuff we're interested in. So when I'm telling this person I had a podcast, I was like, you should listen to this episode, and they'd be like, okay, and then just never do it. That says a lot to me. That says a lot about, like, you're not at least not taking me seriously. I understand you don't have to listen to every single episode in existence. That's fine. But I was like, hey, I think you'd like this. I want to hear your thoughts on it. Give this a listen. And they're like, sure. And they just never did it. So I don't think they listen is the point I'm trying to make.
Okay.
Sorry. Tangent. We're living a trauma here. You're triggering me. But anyway. So there was this person I met at church. And she pretended to be interested in our Monday group. So full context, me and Darcy lead a Monday group Bible study, and we've been going for years, and it's going really good. And a friend of ours had brought this individual along, and so after she brought her along, and she hung out with us, and we all did she go to food that first time? Do you remember?
I don't remember.
Yeah. So I'm going to spoil the ending. The whole point of the story is to talk about how age does not mean anything for emotional maturity, right? So this person was pretty old, a lot older than me and pretty much everyone in the group. She was 36, right? And also a pastor's kid, so I was hoping there'd be a little more maturity. Well, she reached out to me in the group chat individually, and it made me feel kind of special. I was like, oh, cool. She saw me talking, and then she liked me. Right. And I found out later she did that to everybody, all the guys in the group, and saw who would take the bait first. So,
oh, no.
Yeah. I wasn't, I won't say everybody, because I think some people are still dating, but she reached out to all the single guys, got the same message, and was she was kind of fishing. And of course, I like texting. So, and I thought she was attractive enough. Right. So I say enough. That's rude.
I was like, dang.
I'm sorry. She wasn't my type typically, but I was like, I could give it a try. But we're talking and the conversation's really not there. I wasn't really feeling it. But I was like, let it breathe. And let me see, maybe stuff can, and you even said, because you've been rooting for me to find somebody forever. So you said, and you were way more lenient with this person than I was, right? But you were saying, hey, just give us more time to breathe, and eventually feelings could develop. Just don't go based off of text. My first instinct is if texting isn't going so well, then it's probably their personality is about up to par. You know what I mean? When I meet them in person, texting is going to be, if the texts are dry and boring, their personality is going to be boring too. So she had already kind of started rushing in her head. She was already saying no one's ever pursued me this hard. And I was like, you mean text you back? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
She was already talking no one's ever. And then she was she's well, no, at the end of both of our work days, she was like, my friends made a joke about me dating a cop, and I just, I didn't want to say anything, so I didn't want to tell him we were already talking like that. And I was like, what do you mean talking like that? I'm just telling, we're just having normal, I think, conversations, unless you would disagree. I think you read some of our stuff at some point, because I overthink, just like other people do. I'm no different. I'm confident, but I also have a tendency to overthink. And I was like, she's already thinking we're kind of together and talking. And I told her, I'm just trying to see how things go. But at one point I told her flat out that, oh, hey, I'm just being friendly. We're just texting. And then she was like, okay, cool. Me too. Ha ha ha. Sorry for making it weird. And then she'd go back to the same thing of we're talking, and it was just weird. It was so weird. And I'm not going to say bizarre yet, but anyway, I started warming up to the idea of us maybe trying it out. So we texted, and she said, are you sure? And I was like, you know what? I mean, I could maybe see that the texting got a lot better, and we texted quite a bit. And I was like, okay, I let it breathe a bit. And I was like, I could see this kind of working, maybe. And we talked on the phone for the first time. She called me after work. I told her I was off. We could talk. Talked for about 45 minutes. That's pretty good. And then we had to hang up because I had something I had to get to work on. So I left that situation kind of feeling like maybe. Okay. Am I describing okay?
I think so.
So the first night after we had stopped, we hung up the phone, I had texted you, Darcy, and I was like, I actually think this could be a thing. She's a little bit older than what I'm used to. She was she was 36. But and another red flag here, like you brought up earlier, no kids, never married. I would agree with you. That's a red flag because you should you really should be looking at why. Now, if they're divorced with kids and they're 36, like that's different. Lots of stuff could have happened. And maybe it is the guy's fault, but maybe not. Maybe it's both. Maybe it's the girl's fault. Maybe the kids. I don't know. Right?
Oh my God.
What? What'd I say?
You don't see the problem with that? The parents' divorce being the kid's fault? You piece of trash.
No. Maybe they couldn't agree on how to discipline the kid.
Okay,
Let me clarify.
okay.
You're right. That left it a lot of room to interpret. Let me fix that. Okay.
Somebody's on the listening to the podcast crying, being like, I knew it was my fault.
Yeah. They disagreed on how to raise them. Maybe they thought they could get kids with them and someone didn't want kids. Maybe they thought they'd change their mind later. Whatever.
Okay.
That's what I meant. I'm glad thank you. We hit 200 subs. They all unsubscribe. We lose half back where we started.
All of them have divorced parents that blamed them.
Yeah. So I got 14
bad.
minutes left to tell this story. I know we can go a bit over, but I'm trying to get 2 episodes in. So we go and we sit. We go to the young adult service at church. I'm still young adult. I'm not 30 yet. She's not a young adult, but she still hangs out with that age group. Cool. Whatever. Pastor's kid makes sense, I guess. Well, I was like, we had only started kind of talking like that. I hadn't said anything too lovey-dovey yet. And I actually never did with her. We never got to that point because of what happened that night. So I was like, let's not be weird. So I went and sat with my buddy, and we sat separate away from her, and she sat with her friends. I didn't feel a certain way about it, but she texted me during worship, and I'm into worship, and my phone vibrates, and I check it, and I say, she says, you can sit with me if you want, right? I was like, okay. And I used a rude voice, but she was trying to be flirty. She's like, you can sit with us if you want. And I was like, okay. So I got my buddy, and we moved. You know who you are, buddy. I'm not going to say your name. But we move over there, and then she starts acting weird. She won't look at me. She starts looking over her shoulder the other way, the opposite direction of me. She gets so weird. And then when service is over, I try to talk to her, and she's giving me one-word responses. Okay, I don't know, sure, maybe. That happened to be a quick community night where they brought a food truck, and they brought all these really cool games. And it was supposed to be a social thing, a real short message, and a big social gathering after. I'm trying to, and I didn't follow her around. I was getting some weird vibes. She was being short with me. As soon as she said okay to one of my questions, she got up and ran to a group of friends. She was acting weird. And it was weird to me because over text, she was pressuring, kind of, not too hard, but pressuring me to change my mind about dating her and talking to her like that. And are you sure we can't? So there were a couple points where I'm hanging out with my friends, and I try to go to her group and talk to her, and then she'd just do the same thing and take off. So then I try to walk her to her car, and it's me, her, and another friend of hers. And I walk her to her car. She's not saying anything. She's not, I'm trying to talk to her like we were talking over the phone, and she's just not having it really. She wasn't being rude, but I was like, okay, I know I've seen this behavior before. My girlfriend before her, and again, I never got to that point with this person. My girlfriend before she dumped me over text was acting that way. She's being real short over text. Suddenly she didn't want to hang out in not a group setting. I was like, okay, she's not telling me that she wants to break up, but that's what she's building up to. So I get home, I text her, hey, cool to see you. Good night. And then she says, sorry for being weird, the weird teeth emoji, right? And I was like, okay, cool. So I knew it, and she knew it. So I said, hey, what's going on? Why are things a little bit weird now? And she's like, And then again, no one's ever pursued me this hard before. And I was like, I'm already sitting here where I wasn't really pursuing you though. for her, she had different definitions. I guess nobody had ever kind of given her that kind of attention. And I'm for me, I was just texting back in a timely manner. And a couple, how was your day text? To me, that's not crazy. That's a friend. I do that with friends. I'll do that. I've done that with Darcy, and I've done that with lots of people.
Yeah, we talk all the time.
All the time. You call me after work on your way home, and I'm on my way home too.
Yeah.
And then and Darcy, to be honest with you, I think you're even. This is rude, but I think you're the only person that I call back when I say, "Hold on, let me call you back." Like I forced myself to do that with my fiance because, like, you should do it. Like, I should treat her better than I treat a girlfriend of mine. But that's something I had to adjust to. That's another story. So she was like, "No one's ever pursued me this hard," and she was giving me the runaround of like.
Wait, you're the only person I do that with too. There's a lot of people I say I'll call you back in a second.
Just never do.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Sidebar. A word from our sponsor. All right. So and she's giving me the. So basically, what ended up happening? She freaked out, and here's how she tried to word it later. She was saying nobody'd ever treated her so nice, so it scared her. To me, that's unacceptable. I don't think there's an excuse for it. To kind of like pull the rug out from someone who's just finally starting to get interested, especially since you had to really talk me into it. But she's doing the 19-year-old, and again, my girlfriend before her was 18 and did that to me. So it just pissed me off because she's like almost 40. This girl's 36 years old, pastor's kid. You'd think she'd know better. And her dad, like I had very good respect for him, and I was like, I liked him. I liked him a lot, and I talked to him quite a few times. And I was expecting more from her. I really was. But she basically, without saying I'm not interested, she was like, we can still be friends. And, but, just all the stuff that when it's over, you just don't want to hear because, they're just saving face. And I got annoyed a little bit with Darcy because I screenshot some of these and I sent them to her, and Darcy was like, I just don't see what you're talking about. It seems normal to me. I was like, are you freaking kidding me? Like, she's clearly backing out of this in the worst way possible, right? And that's what ended up happening. But, so I was getting a little annoyed with Darcy too, but, it's women looking out for each other. But, no. So, and then she started trying to invite me to stuff again. And I was like, I was just real short with her. I wasn't mean. I wasn't mean to her, but I was like, I'm not interested because the way she did it was so wrong, and it just brought back all the old memories of my last girlfriend treating me like trash. I don't like text breakups for that reason. I think it should be in person. If you don't have if someone doesn't have the balls to tell you in person it's not working, then they're not even worth texting back when they do that to you.
You were over at my house when that happened, right?
Well, I'll get to that.
Okay.
Because the time I'm describing the first time was at my place. I was just getting ready for bed. We just got done with young adults. And so I was mad. And I sent you the screenshots. You didn't see what I was talking about, even though I did. And she told me finally, was like, I'm so sorry for leading you on. I'm sorry for giving you the wrong idea. And when she's like I was like, the wrong idea? Like, you literally said, will you change your mind? A week goes by, and she comes to Monday group again, surprisingly, and I really do say surprisingly because she avoids conflict like nothing. Like, if there's a chance things are awkward, she's not going. Because like I had scheduled a whole movie night around her coming. I bought all these really nice snacks, and the day of, because she ended things so abruptly and weirdly, she texted me, "Hey, I'm not going to movie night," and I'd done the whole thing for her, so I was mad about that too. Well, that following Monday, after that Friday, she texted me, "I'm not coming to movie night," which again, like that's her choice, that's fine, but I don't know. It just everything was so rug pull and just pissed me off. Well, that Monday, she comes to group. She's with her friends, and then after we all go, she texts me, and I'm with Darcy and Paul at this point.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. She texts me again, and she's like, "Hey, can I ask you something?" And I was like, "Don't talk." I'm like, "I don't want to talk to you." But I was like, "Sure." And then so she says, "Can I ask why you're attracted to me to begin, or can I ask why you're interested in me to begin with?" And I said, "I think you're pretty." And I thought we were having good conversations. I just kind of felt like this might have turned into something. And then she's like, she sent me a blushing emoji. She's like, "Oh my gosh, me?" And then she was like, I'm sorry. And then she was honest, and she was like, I freaked out and I didn't handle it right. I'm sorry. Like, it was a genuine apology, I think. And I read it to y'all, and y'all were very sympathetic. You and Paul were like, oh, you should give it another try. And I was like, no.
I didn't say it like
Yeah, you did.
that.
Well,
I
okay.
said be open to it because
Yeah.
I was explaining that every girl has a
Right.
panic moment.
Yeah, so explain that to me. Go ahead.
We
We can go over an hour on this one.
Okay. Every girl at some point in a relationship, at least from people I've talked to, I don't know, has like a moment of panic where they're like, I don't know if I want to do this and pursue this. And it's not always because of like the other person. Sometimes it's just insecurities within yourself. Sometimes, like it all depends, but there's like a panic moment. And sometimes it's all internal.
Yeah.
And they don't express it, and they just kind of like figure out how to work through it.
Yeah.
And then they figure it out, and like the other person is like either none the wiser or like saw you were trying to figure that out and gave you the space to do it.
Sure.
And then other girls will outwardly just kind of like run. And so I was like, hey, obviously if this were to happen again, it's a habit, and do not, if this happens again, drop it. But I wouldn't give this one isolated incident saying that this is the way she's always going to be, because every girl has that moment where they freak out, and it just depends on the person on what that looks like.
Yeah.
And maybe this was her one moment of freak out, and things will get better now that she figured out, okay, this is something I do want to pursue.
And
Was my standpoint.
And you expressed that to me, and I still had I was still upset with her because of how she did it initially. It just brought me right back to that last breakup. And that last breakup is how I started getting these tattoos and got my ears pierced because I saw Paul had them. And basically, that breakup drove me into y'all's arms. You know what I mean? I ran to the next batch of friends I could make. That was a whole thing. I could do a whole episode on that.
Well, and that was also something I pointed out to you in that moment.
Yeah.
I was like, hey, like, I understand like you're upset about this, and rightfully so, but I do think you're overreacting to this individual incident because of
Yes.
a moment of previous hurts that are now coming up because this happened.
I
again.
will say, I don't recall you pointing that out, but I know I was self-aware about it, at least. But you probably did. It sounds like something you would say, so I'm not tripping about it. But anyway, I heard that, and I just still... Part of it probably was me still being butthurt. But the other thing, too, was like, I just don't have a good feeling about it. Like, that she did it exactly that way at almost 40 freaking years old. I had a bad feeling. But that's when she really started begging. She really was like, can we at least hang out? Can we try? Are you sure we can't try again? And I'll admit, she wore me down. Because at that point, I hadn't had anything serious in about 3 years. So this girl that I'm talking about was last year. I hadn't had anything worth talking about. So I was like, maybe I should give it a try. Maybe this is her pursuing the way I'm hoping she would. And do you need to take that?
Mm-mm.
Okay. I was like, maybe this is her pursuing the way I thought I need to be pursued. That pursuit I thought I was looking for. So I was like, she wore me down. And I said, okay, how about Tuesday we hang out? Whatever day that was. I think it was it was either a week or 2 weeks. But, it was a couple weeks out. We picked a day where we were going to in my mind, we were going to go get ice cream. Well, the week before that, I went with my mom to Minnesota, and I was taking her to a conference, and I was, hanging out with her. We're spending quality time together, and she was texting me, and we were talking, and I just wasn't feeling it. The first time before she rug pulled, I was willing to settle. The texts and the conversations weren't as good as I was hoping, but they were good enough to where I'd have been like, I can make this work. I can choose to be happy in a long-term relationship. When she rug pulled, that really opened my eyes to like, I can't just settle.
Well, and I remember too, because there was a point me and Paul were talking to you around the fire pit, because like you were talking about things with her, and that's when we were like on the side of like, okay, drop this. This isn't the person for you.
Can you elaborate?
Like I could just tell that you weren't feeling it, and that it was definitely something you were settling for.
Yeah.
And I had the same conversation with her too, that y'all were both going to end up settling for each other, and not because the other person necessarily had like things wrong with them that they needed to change, but just because y'all's personality types weren't quite mixing in a way
Yeah.
that would cause y'all to grow together and complement each other. And so like not settle as in like you'd be downgrading, but just in a way where like y'all just didn't mix. And it wouldn't be fair to ask either of you to change things to mix, because that was just y'all's personality. She didn't enjoy going out. She liked being a homebody.
Ugh, I hate that.
And we hung out a couple times, and she likes to just come over and y'all be on your phones and watch a movie, and like
not
that
my
was her,
thing.
and that there's nothing wrong with that, like
Yeah.
if that's the type of person you are, that's the type of person you are. But she would be settling for you in a way where you like going out and you like having friends over all the time, and you would be settling for her in a way where it's like, like it just wouldn't have mixed.
And you're being nice, okay, I will say, because she would not be settling for me. Okay. And I know I come across as cocky sometimes, but like I know I'm a catch. And for her, she'd never had anyone. This is just my opinion. I never ended up talking this through with her, because we're gonna get to the part that really pissed me off. You know what I mean? We're gonna go a little bit over an hour, guys. Sorry, but I'll try to keep it like an hour 15 max. But anyway, the part that we have to get there. So finally, when I get home from the trip, I'm talking to Darcy. Well, okay, actually, how'd she take that from you though? When you explained that to her, how'd she take it?
She agreed with me. And then I think she continued to try to talk to you after that.
So she's one of those like, oh yeah, you're right, and then does the opposite of what you're talking about.
At least in that circumstance, she did, yeah.
Sure. I don't think she had anybody kind of give her the same attention that I was giving her, and I wasn't doing it to lead her on. I was just like trying to feel it out, and she wasn't. The biggest problem was she wasn't giving me the space to figure out how I felt. So when I told her, hey, that Tuesday after I come back from the trip, we spent the weekend in Minnesota. Me and my mom, not me and her. Me and my mom, and she wasn't giving me that space. So she had already started telling people we were dating. She told you,
Did she?
Yeah, she told you we had a date that Tuesday.
Oh yeah, she said that was a date.
Yeah, and she was already telling some of her friends who, I haven't seen them in a while, but that she was telling them like, yeah, oh my gosh, like we're together. That's what she was telling these people. And so you had texted me, hey, you might want to go ahead and clear it up with her. Like she's expecting a big...
yeah, because y'all were meeting up for you to tell her that you weren't interested, but you were going to do it in person.
I was going to
let her to like be easy.
Right,
with
but
it.
what I was going to do was like I was going to give it one date, and then if I just still wasn't feeling it, if we sat across from each other and just wasn't working, then I was going to tell her the next time we meet up, it's not working. Well, 3 days before that, she's telling people we're together, we got a date, we're doing, like, she's telling people, and people are asking me. I was like, I'm gonna have to call it early. So I told her, well, it's not really a date. I want to talk about stuff first. Well, then she freaks out and she starts blowing up my phone. What were we talking about? Is it something you need to worry about? Yep, blah blah. She wants to know. And I was like, well, now the cat's out of the bag. I can't like.
Right.
So I called her. I didn't text her because I'm very against texting somebody. It's over.
Yeah.
So I call her, and I'm still in Minnesota, and I was like, "Hey, I'm really not trying to be rude. I was gonna tell you in person, but I'm just not feeling it." And she's quiet the whole time, and I could see her face. She's probably grumpy cat face the whole time. And why are you laughing?
Just go on.
I'm not cutting that out, by the way. I'm leaving that in there. She's so quiet. I could tell she's a little upset. And I was like, I was trying to be honest with her. I was like, look, I wanted to tell you in person, but you kept pushing me too hard. You're blowing up my, and I was honest. I wasn't brutally honest. I was just telling her, like, I really think you need to be honest in these situations. Pull the plug. And so that's what I was doing. And I was trying to let her down easy. And it's like, I just don't think we're a good fit. And then she's telling me, okay. She's giving me generic responses. And then as soon as we hang up, she's blowing up my phone again. And she's like, how can you say after a couple of conversations and a couple texts, how can you say we're just not... And I'm just and I told her, I said, I know when I feel something. I know when there's a spark because I've had it twice before you. I told her, I was like, I know what that feels like, and I'm not feeling it with you. And I said, if you want, we can we can still hang out Tuesday and talk about it. I can tell you in person like I wanted to do. And she agreed. I think you talked her into us meeting up and talking about it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, and then she wasn't having it. She was getting mad. And I started sharing with her. I was like, yeah, the last two girlfriends, I started tearing up. I was like, they didn't work out, but I've been in love before. And I just don't feel that when we're talking, when we're hanging out. And then at a certain point, you could tell she was done with the conversation. She wasn't rude, but you could tell she just didn't want to hear anymore. So we leave. I start crying in the car. I was like, Lord, why won't you give me the right person? And then she drives off. And then she's still trying to bug me. I tell her, let's take a break from texting. Let's detox for about 2 weeks. And then we can text as friends. That's totally fine. Yeah, because
she was open to being friends after that still, right?
She said she was? She said she was, but we'll get to that. I got 10 minutes left. She's inviting me to movie nights. She used to house sit and just watch people's dogs and watch the house. So she asked, hey, you want to come over and watch Harry Potter? I was like, all right, fine. Looking back, I probably should have said no to the one-on-one hangouts. But I had girl friends who I could do that with, and it wasn't weird. I have a lot of those, not just you. Like I have a lot of people that we can hang out and nothing, you know what I mean? And none of us are trying. We're just hanging out and talking. I'm one of those people, and most of my friends that are women are like that too. So with her, I treated it the same way. I was like, well, we're just hanging out. So there was one night though where you, me, her, and Paul were around the fire, and we're just drinking, and then we sit down on the couch and watch a movie. Then she just tries to put her head against me, and she's at that point. We took the 2 weeks off. But then we're texting again normally. And she said, even though we're just doing this as friends, can we still hang out? Can we still keep talking? I was like, okay, sure. I really should have just limited how much I talked to her back. Looking back, I made mistakes too. I don't think anything crazy. It's just I really should have just set better boundaries because she wasn't getting the message. She thought I was going to change my mind again. So we're texting in the afternoon or morning till nighttime, essentially. And then that one time we're all drinking and around the fire, we're all watching the movie. She puts her head on me, on my shoulder, and I was like, "Hey, stop!" I told her to stop. Well, after that, that's when she started getting petty because then the next day she started getting short again, and then she's like not talking. She's not responding back unless I say, "Hey, are you good?" Then she's like, "Yeah, I'm fine. I'm just tired." She's doing the runaround again. She's being like, rude in a sense, and she's playing the games. Well, then I think this is probably the last one. So she quit texting me, and by then I was getting it. Like, okay, now she's given up. She never wanted to be friends. She was just hoping I would date her and she'd get something out of me. And with you, I don't know if you want to tell this part, but she was trying to hang out with you more so she could be near me.
At least that's the way it seemed.
This is you giving her the benefit of the doubt again. But
yeah, I mean, I always try as best as possible to do that. I always try to do benefit of the doubt. I try to be devil's advocate in different things in order to grow my understanding and just see things from a different perspective. Mm-hmm. Yes, from what it looked like, it did seem that she majority of the time wanted to get closer with me and hang out with me because she knew I was the closest person to you.
Yeah.
Could be wrong, but it did seem that way because pretty much the second you guys fell off, me and her fell off from talking.
Yeah.
And when she was trying to get closer to you was when she started texting with me.
Yeah.
So,
the timelines match.
It could be ironic. It could just be, she left group and so she just didn't keep up with anyone. I don't know. Yeah. But yeah, from what it looked like on the outside, it did seem like she was trying to get closer to me to get closer to you.
And me having that experience again, she's doing it again. I was like, there was a big part of me that was like, I told you so. I told you she was like this, and but I kind of let it go. And but the thing that really put the nail in the coffin between me and her, just as friends. So she quit texting me, and I got the hint. Like she didn't really want to be my friend, but I always want to go the route of we don't have to be weird. Mm. So I saw her at church again, and she wouldn't look at me, right?
Oh, I know what you're about to bring up. Yep. Yeah.
She wouldn't look at me. And I was like, oh, she's at first I was like, I think this is just, she doesn't like conflict. And I'm not a guy that's going to start conflict like that. I'm not. So she won't look at me. And there was one point where I'm like trying to, kind of not make her uncomfortable, but be like, look, I'm trying to show her we don't have to be weird. So there's one point worship starts and she's kind of standing in the back and her back's toward me. And so then I got coffee. So I thought playfully I had walked up and just kind of nudged her. And I kind of like, smiled and tried to kind of wave best I can with, I was holding 2 coffees, one in each hand. And then she gave like a weird smile, like a forced, like, hello, a forced acknowledgement. I didn't think much of it. I was like, I thought I'd send a nice message of things aren't weird. I don't hate you, nothing like that. That's why I thought I did. Well, the next morning, Darcy texts me and says, hey, what happened between you and so-and-so last night? I was like, nothing. And then you kind of had to dig it out of me because I didn't know what you were talking about. Like you didn't have a conflict. You're asking you're like, you didn't have any conflict. You didn't have anything going on with her. I was like, no. I was like, well, I mean, I did give her like I gave her a playful nudge. And then what would you say? She's like, well, she texted me saying, stay away from her. I was like, what?
She had messaged me to tell you to stop flirting with her and leading her on or something, if I remember correctly. And so that's when I had texted you to see if that, what your intention was there. Because we talk all the time. I was sure that wasn't your intention. Yeah. But I don't know if you had some spur of the moment change of mind. I wanted to make sure I didn't shut her down and be wrong about it.
Yeah.
And so once I had figured that out, I let her know like that she was taking things out of context and that wasn't your intent with it and all of that. And then she was like chill about it and she was like, oh, okay, haha, my bad. And, gave the like sweaty smiley face.
I'd tell you, I was livid. You're giving me the nice version of it. I was angry.
Yeah.
So I'm at work and I'm pissed. So I'm in my office and I go outside and I'm pacing around looking at the view, looking out the window. And I was like, another terrible person, and I was like, I get so mad. There are some women who think that when you talk to them that you're interested. And so there's another individual who was like, texting another friend of mine. She's like, how do I let Caleb down easy? Because like he's clearly interested in me, but I'm just not interested. And then they ask me, I'm like, I am not interested in that woman. Me having a regular hi, how you doing is that annoys me. So I was mad because I took it as like, can you tell Caleb to stay away from me? And I was like, all I did was give you a nudge and smile at you. That is not flirty. That is not lovey-dovey. I was mad. And then you said, you asked me, are you going to tell her and clear things up? I was like, I can't. If I text her again, I'm going to start, I'm going to dig into her. And then he said, okay, well, let me, I think it's a good idea if you leave her alone. I was like, I agree. She's a piece of I'm not going to ever look at her again.
Yeah.
She is so annoying. She is so, would you call that self-centered in a way where she just thinks I'm leading her on and like, I don't know. She built me up as this guy that's playing with her emotions. Like, you know what I mean? I don't know. What would you say? What would you call that? What's wrong with
her? So if you think that everyone's coming on to you or obsessed with you, I think you're either probably like self-centered and think, like everything revolves around you type of thing.
Yeah.
Or,
you think that applies to her?
I don't know. I don't think she like thinks she's better than everyone else. So I don't really know.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just like it kind of gave me the feeling that she just didn't have very many male interactions.
Mm-hmm.
And she's never had, and she did say she's never had a guy as a friend.
Yeah.
And so from that perspective, I think she just got confused with what, that looks like.
She confused herself, let me say, because I was so nice to her, and I hate it when I'm treated bad after I'm super nice to somebody. I don't mean like one singular moment. Like people have their bad days and they get snippy. But with her, it just kept happening where she just kept treating me like bad and making assumptions and like I said, like she quit talking to you as soon as she was not pursuing me anymore. And again, I don't care if she lost pursuit. I kept trying to get her to forget about that and just be friends. So, but I was mad too that she didn't want to talk to you anymore, So, yeah, I know we got away from the original point of the episode at first, but all that to say is this woman was almost 40, no married, no kids, which is a red flag. Number one. Number two, age doesn't mean anything, dude. Like people can be immature at any age. Any age. I'm sorry. What I'm describing to you is something I should have gotten out of another 18 or 19-year-old that I had been trying to date. You know what I'm saying?
Right. I mean, that's like what I said in the beginning. Like,
Yeah.
should age mature you? Yes. Like, should the older you get, the more mature you get? Yes. Should you be having people doing the same stuff
Yeah.
at 40 that people do in their 20? No, like, you shouldn't. But, like, is that the way it works now?
Yeah. That was a year ago. As far as I know, she's still single. I can't imagine why.
Caleb.
Oh, sorry. I'm not cutting that out either. She doesn't listen, so it's fine.
Oh, God.
Yeah, and after that whole thing where
If I get a text, I swear to you.
well, she didn't never listen to the show. That was the thing. Like, I don't know. She never took. I made it a point to take an interest in what she liked. She did not do that. Like, I sat down and watched Harry Potter with her. Everyone knows on this show I hate Harry Potter, and I sat down and watched it with her, and she wouldn't listen to my show once. So I don't know. It was very uneven on a lot of things. Not just that. Not just the immaturity. That was the biggest issue. But the other stuff was like there just wasn't enough there. So, and that's kind of why I wasn't feeling it. Anyway, what do you think? Any other thoughts on that? You described that situation before. That's the one I like listening to that part because you tried to summarize it, and it sounded so stupid. But that's what happened.
Yeah.
Like that's how it went down.
Yeah.
It was ridiculous. I couldn't. When it was done, and you were telling, we were talking about it. I was like, I don't know what happened.
Right.
It was just straight up. I just call it immaturity
Yeah.
on her end. You know what I mean? And I was like, how are you almost 40, and that's how you treat people? Because she had boyfriends before me. She told me about them.
Okay.
And I was like, how? Why would they treat me the same way they treated their boyfriend who was hitting on underage people? You know what I mean? Why would they treat me the same way? You know what I mean? I didn't do anything to them to deserve that. But,
Right.
you know.
All right. Well,
You want to close this out there?
I think with that,
I don't want to end on a rant.
well, you're the one that's strict about time, so
It's 1:16. We're at an hour and 16 minutes. So
Okay.
you got anything to lighten the tone so we don't close it down onto me yelling, me raging at stuff.
raving.
Shut up. Yeah, you heard me, audience.
No, I don't know. You put me on the spot. I'm not like a sunshine and rainbows person to like
Yeah.
lighten the mood. I just make it go darker.
All right, how about this? For the audience, I'm going to do a backflip right now. Here we go. Ready? And stick that landing. Perfect. That was beautiful. Wasn't it, Darcy? Isn't that cool?
That was beautiful. You didn't land on your throat this time.
Guys, if you go into YouTube and type in the wheel before the third, you'll find the video she's talking about. All right, guys, thanks for joining us this week. Sorry about the overtime, but we'll see. Maybe people listen all the way, maybe not. Love you guys. See you guys next time as we dive into Lord knows what.
See you guys.